Morning. We're truly blessed in New York City. It's a little cold, but it's a beautiful morning. And I'd like to talk about trust. One thing that was brought to mind when the Nobel Prize was given to the three economists, it was given for a reason. They noted that income inequality exists in those countries that are not democratic and do not have strong institutions. When you poll everyone around the world, no one feels that they have a stake in government or trust government or trust their leaders or trust the police. It's kind of a universal, and it's sad because when I speak to people on a one-to-one basis, I find them to be really decent people. And in fact, because I trusted a person 2 years ago, he was a really nice family man, I met one of my neighbors. Trust works. Sometimes all it takes is looking at another human being and say, I can trust that person. But how do you demonstrate trust? You do it in many ways. Government's responsible when they send out FEMA personnel to help in catastrophes. That's being responsible. That's trustworthy. Government's responsible when it votes for voting laws, and anyone who stymies it, I don't know if they can be trusted or not. But that's wrong. Perhaps what we really need, government, is an ombudsman who can sit in the cabinet and relay the people's fears. Not the made-up conspiracy fears, but the fears that we all have of this is what we need for our representation. Are you aware of it? And how can we get things done so that we have a thriving middle class, just like we used to? We used to have a bell curve for our economy. The folks at the very lowest level of income are on one side and the very highest on the other. Now it's skewed. And there's a very, very small middle class. It's nice to offer tipping to folks and say that their tipped wages aren't going to be taxed. It would be even nicer if we increase the minimum wage across the country to a minimum of $15 to $20 an hour. I'd go with whatever Elizabeth Warren would recommend. I trust her. I trust her to do the right thing when it comes to the people of our country. The other thing I'd do is I'd leave in place the head of the Agency for Education, because I understand that person knows what they're doing. Because on the state level, we're failing our kids, and we really can't trust the school boards, the chancellors, the superintendents, the transportation department, the education of our children, the employment of our teachers. We need a standard of operation. I don't want political hacks in government. I don't want political hacks running our agencies. Science, AI, information technology, it's too important to leave to the politicians. We gotta know what's happening. And also, I don't want my laws written by the oil industry or the ag industry or big pharma either. I want my laws written by people thinking about the needs of we the people. Right now, with their $1 trillion subsidies, big fossil fuel oil companies are lobbying and getting laws written that reflect their needs. But their needs, as we see, are not the needs of the people. I can't trust their laws. I can trust the laws of good scientific people, people who care about the environment. I can trust the indigenous people because they've taken care of our earth for tens of thousands of years. That's who I trust. So when folks say they have a lack of trust in government on both the state and the local and the federal level, they got a case. And that means don't despair, but vote. Vote for a person who's going to give you a strong democracy and is going to give you a strong administrative state to help in emergency. What else would I do? If I were there, I'd have an owner's manual for all the money that's been given out during the Inflation Reduction Act. I'd want to know, was that money spent for the HVAC system? Did it employ more teachers? Have I changed my textbooks? Am I teaching kids to be analytical thinkers? It's not pre-K that we're only interested in childcare at the younger ages. We need to graduate kids at K through 12 so that they can eventually take over our world, and they've got the smarts to do it. They need those STEM subjects, and they need to be prepared, and they need to be able to think analytically, and also to be able to sometimes get away from their phones and look other kids their age in the eye and see if they like them and adjust and can form relationships. Because relationships are the basis of all human interaction. I heard the other day that Harrison Ford, who's a little older than me, is working, and he's happy. And he's working not so much for the money, but because of the social interactions. Social interactions are important. I know. I was happy to have 8 people here to break the fast on Yom Kippur. And today, when I'm recording this video for next week, I'm happy to be seeing my first cousins. Many of them I haven't seen for a couple of years. One of my cousins who's attending my home hasn't seen them for maybe 30. So she could trust me to do the right thing, and I am trying. Trust is a two-way street. You ask me to do something, I do it. And that's how government should be. Responsive. And if it takes long, well, people in government, whether it's on the state level or the government level, the federal level, they can have fireside chats, just like FDR. They worked, and they keep people informed of what's happening. We didn't have those first 100 days for nothing. In those first 100 days, FDR passed 92 laws. We can do it here with the right folks in power. So please, when you go to the polls, don't throw your vote away. Think about what I said. Vote for someone you trust and will strengthen our democracy.